Dan Illman, Mike Beer kicking off a 50-cent pick five at Belmont at Aqueduct on Sunday. Race number five is the grade 3 Futurity. These are 2-year-olds going 3/4 of a mile on the outer turf. $150,000 is the purse. We've got 8 2-year-olds in here, several trying turf for the first time. One that has already won on turf is the 7 Apollo 10, who looked good in his turf debut, albeit with a very good trip.
He did get a good trip in that race, second time out for Clement, but he, ran a relatively fast race, Dan, getting the job done. And that's, one of the things that's missing from this race so far anyway is, representative turf form. There are a couple of surface switchers who are interesting, but if you want the horse that's already run really well on turf, it's this horse.
Let's start with the time form US pace projector, because for 2-year-olds, it's not like there are a ton of burners in here. Works for me, the New York bred trying turf for the first time. I expect this horse to be close to the pace. Apollo 10 has shown stalking ability, whereas Chris has shown stalking ability. I'm not sure where the speed's coming from, Mike. I guess it's going to be Works for me.
Yeah, I guess it could be too. I mean, as far as the pace projector is concerned, and I won't argue too hard with it, it's the 3 surface switchers, or 2 of the 3 surface switchers who are right up close to the pace. I think that's probably correct. We'll see. The good news for your morning line favorite Apollo 10 is he's got really good tactical speed.
I'm very interested in the one Where's Chris, one of the surface switchers, a debut winner for Rick Dutrow Jr. I just love these twirling candies on any surface, but especially on the turf. And I won't be surprised if he falls into a pretty good pace tracking, ground saving trip.
I agree with you. I like the sire. I think the sire is versatile enough to make this surface switch. It's also worth noting that the dam was a stakes winner on the grass, and she was grade 1 placed on the grass. She's a sister to a grade 1 winner on the grass. This is a lot of turf in this pedigree. This horse debuted on dirt, Dan, but he looked really good winning that race.
The 2 is Please Advise, and Please Advise is already stakes placed on the turf. It was at Kentucky Downs, the juvenile sprint, and Please Advise ran 3rd that day. He came from out of it. He sort of clunked up to finish 3rd. Kentucky Downs, though, is a track, Mike, that sometimes just you like or sometimes you don't. You're going to see Jimmy the Tooth in the yellow kind of run up down towards the inside and finish 4th.
Yeah, they both ran, okay in this race, Dan. I didn't think that either one of them had a big excuse. They wind up finishing relatively close together in 3rd and 4th. I don't know. I don't have a big argument against Please Advise. He hasn't broken through with that fast race yet, but he was very professional winning first time out. It's been 3 stakes races since then, 3 different tracks. And this is a horse who I think you can rely on. He's going to show up here. He's going to run, and he's probably getting class relief in this spot.
It's a good point. I liked his debut. I thought it was a good, solid effort. He had no chance against his stablemate, No Name Metz, who's probably the best 2-year-old turf sprinter in the country in the Tyro. Then he had to ship all the way to Woodbine. That's the race that kind of worries me the most. I don't love that race, but maybe the ship just took it out of him. And last time out again, it was Kentucky Downs. Maybe Please Advise dirtied up just a bit. Lamorna is the number 3. The concern with Lamorna is this. She has no early speed. In her career debut, she fell far, far behind. She made this huge move on the turn from last and wide to get into contention, and then she understandably flattened out just a little bit, but it was a good 4th. They tried to stretch her out off that performance, and again, she was a little bit slow from the gate. Again, she tries to come with a wide run, and again, she hits the board. To me, she seems pace-dependent right now, Mike, but I think there's something here.
I'm going to agree with all that stuff, Dan. I didn't really know what to do with her in here because more than anything else, I'm not sure that I really love her cutting back to sprint again. Personally, off of her debut, I thought that she would really improve in this race, going longer. And maybe she did improve in that race, Dan. I really think the 1-2 finishes of that race are both pretty good. And she just couldn't quite get there. I'm a little surprised they're cutting her back to sprint again, but at least she gets to go 6th this time.
Works for me tries turf for the first time. This is a son of Daddy Longlegs, who was a gate-to-wire winner 2 starts back on the dirt. Sometimes he's a little bit ornery. He acted up behind the gate prior to the funny side. Then he pushed the pace and he tired behind the wine steward. It looks like a promising 2-year-old running in the Breeders' Futurity this weekend at Keeneland. He's going to show speed. What do you make of this turf pedigree?
There's enough of it that I wasn't that concerned with the surface switch. Then I'm just more concerned about whether or not this horse is actually good enough to really factor against these kinds of horses. We'll see. Daddy Longlegs was more of a turf horse, in my opinion, anyway. The dam, 2 wins in her career, both on the grass. She was more of a claiming kind of horse, but there's enough pedigree here to make the surface switch. I just wonder if he's good enough.
The 5 Ruddy Buddy caught a hot ground motion trained odds-on debut winner in his debut. That was Tok Tok going 5.5. Then he graduated against Virginia's Certifieds, and then he was in against No Name Mets last time out. So I guess you could give him excuses for two of his 2 losses. He was in against some good horses, but he's going to have to do a little bit more in this spot. Blinkers are on, probably to try to get him into the race earlier.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, listen, you don't want to be too hard on him for that last one. I guess the question is, how much did you like his maiden win 2-back? Personally, I didn't like it that much. And where's his fast race?
Jimmy the Tooth's first 2 races were okay. Some might say they were kind of blah. Some might say they were okay. His third lifetime start was the graduation at Saratoga, where he just had a really easy trip. And it was a race where I think there were a lot of first-time starters in that race. He showed up at Kentucky Downs last time out in the juvenile sprint. We saw him running on late. I was a little surprised he was so far behind. I mean, he was last on the backstretch turning for him, and I liked that he ran on at the end. So maybe he's slowly improving. I wish I liked his other races a little bit more, but I think he's kind of tactical if he gets out of the gate.
Yeah, I don't really have anything to add to that, Dan. I have no problem with this horse. I actually think he's okay, and I think he can get a better trip in this race than he did at Kentucky Downs, where, by the way, he ran fine. I don't know. I don't love him in here. He's 6-1 on the morning line, though. I think that's a very fair price on this horse. He's not, to me, he's not in over his head in this race.
Let's watch Apollo 10's second lifetime start. A 79 Beyer victory in his turf debut. He broke just fine. He let the speed go. He sat the pocket. He gets to the outside. He gets the hole, and he's going to run down the leader in the stretch. He looks like a big, strong son of violence, Mike. And just based on this performance, I have a feeling he's the kind of horse still learning, going to run it back, and he's going to be tough if he shows up.
Agreed. He's going to be tough in this race. I think he's the horse to beat in here. There are a couple of surface switchers who I think could make things interesting, but if they don't handle the turf or aren't as good on turf as they are on dirt, I mean, this horse could be in a really, really good spot here. I have no knocks on the race that he just ran. He's bred to be a turf sprinter, and he really improved when they made the surface switch.
Completing the field is a New Jersey bred, the number 8, Bookham Dano, and this horse has looked good in both starts at Monmouth. Just blew him out in his career debut against fellow J-breds, and then beat open foes last time out in the Smoke Clackin at odds on, and he got a figure, an 88. Now, his sire Bucaro was a really good turf sprinter in his day. What do you make of them switching to turf here? It looks like they got a fast 2-year-old sprinting on the dirt, and they're trying turf.
Yeah, I don't know if I love the surface switch, although I can't really argue with them if they're going to do it, to do it in this kind of a spot in a race that carries a grade 3 for him. So we'll see if it works out there. I mean, you already mentioned Bucaro was a really good turf sprinter. He's also winning with 19% of his offspring that sprint on the grass. So he's a good sire for this. There's turf on the bottom too. This horse can really run. If he transfers to turf, I think it'll be really tough in here, but that's got to be a big question.
Let's take a look at our top picks for the Futurity. You're going with Bookham Dano. So visually impressive, so fast on the dirt. And this outside post, I think he's got a little bit more tactical speed than it may appear. I wouldn't be surprised if Jose's a little aggressive out of the gate with him, tries to get into a good position on the outside while clear of traffic.
I thought the same thing. I think he can get the right trip in here if he handles the surface, which I'm just going to hope that he can do it, Dan. I'm not really against the 7 in here. I don't like really any of the other horses who have started on turf yet. So if I'm going to take a shot against him, it's going to be with one of the surface switchers. I'll try the 8.
You're going with the Jersey bred. I'm going with a New York bred, Jimmy the Tooth. Again, just so far back last time out, seemed to be running on a little bit at the end while over and behind horses down on the rail. I think he can get more forward, but he's going to have to show a little bit more spark. I just want to see him kick a little more in the stretch. 8-7-2-1 for Mike, 6-7-1-2 for me. It's the grade 3 Futurity at Belmont at the Big A on Sunday. Good luck.